What up, everybody? Welcome to another edition. Davey D hanging out with you. And if you're watching and you're not familiar with the city of Oakland, we are now here at the historic Eastside Arts Alliance. And that's where we are about to have a conversation with somebody who is a hero for many, iconic, legendary figure when it comes to literature, spoken word, the Black Arts movement, the book Blues People. We can go on and on, giving a lot of accolades to the one and only Amiri Baraka, who is with us this afternoon. First of all, sir, welcome to the show.
Okay,
How you doing?
Thank you, I'm all right.
You know, I don't know where to begin, but I guess where I sit, I'm part of what we would call the hip-hop generation.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting challenges that we have in this generation is keeping track of history.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think we have it because we got little bits and pieces, but then somewhere along the line we don't connect the dots. And one of the things that I notice a number of people have been doing over the years is looking back and seeing what preceded this thing that we call hip hop. And one of the things that's unavoidable, but not often really talked about in great detail, is the legacy and the footprints that you all laid down, people like yourselves, with the Black Arts movement. And I wanted to get from you what you think, what you all laid down, and what did we miss, and what didn't we miss when we talk about the hip hop generation?
Well, in the 60s, I guess you'd say, we began to be aware of the civil rights movement. I had just got kicked out of the Air Force in 1957 and came back to New York finally and moved to Greenwich Village, the Lower East Side. And that time, 55 was, I guess, the beginning of the civil rights movement. You know, Emmett Till gets murdered. Martin Luther King comes to Montgomery. Rosa Parks refuses to sit down in the bus. The Montgomery bus boycott begins,
Right.
you know. So all of that is going through, you know, King is a young man and just getting started in that, you know. We were all, that generation, young.
You're talking about early 20s, right?
I'm talking, yeah, we were young in our 20s. I was, I don't know, barely 30. And I wasn't 30, no, I was in my 20s, you're right. And there was a lot of dynamism in that, you know, we felt really empowered, you know, all kind of stuff was happening then. And so when the bus boycott was successful, then they blew up Dr. King's house. You're talking about 1957.
Something that they don't often talk about.
Yeah, that's right. They blew up his house and the black people showed up with guns in front of the house. Dr. King, what should we do? And he said, if any blood be shed, let it be our blood. Now, a lot of us young people, we said, no, it wasn't going to be like that. Any blood going to be shed, it's going to be some mutual blood being shed out here. No. But we loved Dr. King, but we wasn't going for the nonviolent kind of thing. And at the same time, then, Malcolm X appears, you see, that same time. And so all this is happening at the same time. When King says that, it was that 1957, 58, 59, Fidel Castro goes into Havana. I went down there. 1960, met Fidel, met Che Guevara, you know, those folks down in Havana stayed there. Met Robert Williams, who had just attacked, he was in exile. He had attacked the Klan, took off their robes, exposed them as the state police in North Carolina. They were having read-ins in the library, swim-ins in the pools.
Right.
The Deacons for Self-Defense had held up the Klan down in Bogalusa, Louisiana. That's where James Brown got the song of Boogaloo. And so all this stuff was happening. Then, you know, Malcolm was an impact. From 1960 on, Malcolm had the strongest impact. I mean, but you had Dr. King marching down there. So you got a double-edged sword, like, so to speak, you see. And then Malcolm cut out of the nation, got put out of the nation.
Right.
So that caused a thing, because first the split had been between Dr. King, nonviolence, and what Malcolm was saying. Malcolm said, you know, you treat people like they treat you.
Right.
You know, they treat you with respect, you treat them with respect. They put their hands on you, send them to the cemetery.
Right.
We said, now there's the wise person of this generation.
Right.
And until, say, 63, they killed Kennedy. And, you know, we see that as, because Kennedy had gotten some kind of positive vibe of not being, you know, the kind of backward racist that the South was producing. So so they killed him in 63. We're trying to figure, you know, so what to do now? Then 65, they killed Malcolm X.
Right.
And so for a lot of black people down at Greenwich Village, that was it. That was the end of a village. I was out of there the next month and up to Harlem. It was, you know, you felt stupid.
A wake-up call.
Absolutely. No, you felt stupid. I was in the 8th Street bookstore that Sunday at a book party. And a dude named Leroy McLucas comes running in the bookstore saying, they just killed Malcolm. They just murdered Malcolm. And the black people standing there, we looked at each other like, we are stupid. What are we doing down here? You know, so we were gone. I guess a month later, a bunch of us went up to Harlem. I was making money from this play of mine called Dutchman.
Right.
So I rented a brownstone, tore out the first floor. We built a theater there, and we opened the Black Arts Repertory Theater. We had Sun Ra come up there. We marched across 125th Street. I guess people thought we were weird. But we opened a theater and a school on 130th Street in Lenox Avenue.
Wow.
You know, yeah, and
this is shortly after Malcolm is killed.
absolutely. This was a month or so later.
I think what you just mentioned in this brief, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, is a lot of history, which
Yeah.
I alluded to, that is
Absolutely.
gone. And one of the histories that I think has escaped us is this history of militant resistance.
Yeah.
Showing up with guns in the South. You don't hear about that. Robert Williams has been completely written out of history for many people.
Yeah.
The Black Arts Movement, you know, which you're about to start talking about, is erased. And I want to know, what do you think has happened that we've allowed this to happen, that this history has disappeared?
Well, because, first of all, you're not getting genuine history in the media. You know, I mean, that's owned by that 0.6%. You know, they call them the 1%. They're really 0.6%. They ain't even a whole 1%.
Right.
But they control the media completely. And education, you know, that's why we started the Black Studies in 1967, because we realized that the whole conscience of America was controlled by the most backward elements in it.
And we're going way back. We're not
Way
talking
back.
about something that's new.
No, that's right. But then, you know, you read about Du Bois talked about the Sisyphus syndrome. You know, you roll the rock up the mountain, they roll it back down your head. You roll it back up, they roll it down. And so, when I got to Cuba in 1960 and, you know, met Che and Fidel, also met Robert Williams, because he was in exile from North Carolina. One afternoon, Robert Williams came and said, come on with me, man. And we went to the American embassy.
In Cuba.
In Cuba,
Right.
yeah. And, you know, the Marines were there, but the people were standing out there harassing them, you know, like, you know, Yankee, go home.
Right.
Regreso a su casa. Get out of here. And so we went in there, and Rob, I didn't really know what was happening. That's my excuse, but I didn't know what was happening. He went in there, he pulled a gun on the American ambassador and told him to call Washington, because what had happened, the Klan, who was really the state police, had come up on his land up there
In North Carolina.
in North Carolina and was threatening him. And he told this guy, you better get some people up there to protect my family. I'm going to blow your brains out. You know, so I was like an innocent bystander. That's my story anyway. And but to see how that had all come to Cuba, because in that particular time, we talking about 1960, that the whole militant world had come down to Cuba. I spent 14 hours on a train from Havana to Sierra Maestra to hear Fidel speak 4 hours in the sunshine.
Right.
And they were harassing me, young Latin American students. Are you a bourgeois American? You know, because I was saying stuff like, I'm not political, I'm a poet, I'm a poet.
So they were jamming you up.
They're jamming me up, you know. And so every station we would go by, they would say, Viva Cuba Libre, you know, Viva Cuba Libre. And I'd be saying stuff like, Viva the 5 spot, Viva Thelonious Monk.
Wow.
But that was a period of, you know, like actually the intensification of the world movement. So it sure lit me up. So when I came back here, you know, it intensified my own wanting to be involved in that movement. So by 1965, after they killed Malcolm, we got out of there. We got out of the village. We got in this brownstone. We rented it. We tore out the first floor, you know, made a theater. And we sent 4 trucks out every day in the street.
Right.
One had paintings. We set up easels on the street. One had poets. We'd read poetry. We'd go to play streets, parks, you know, playgrounds, you know. One had musicians, you know, some of the greatest musicians at the time, because we thought this. We said, if we think that what we're doing is so hip, so profound, we should go to our people and move them with what we were saying, you see.
Now, you know, when we talk about the art that you all are doing in 1965, is it art for art's sake, or is it really art as a weapon, so to speak?
No, it was definitely, we wanted to do 3 things. First, for us, since we were black poets, black musicians, people used to come at me in the village and say, Mr. Jones,
Right, 'cause
I didn't know you was a Negro. That's right. So I didn't know you was a Negro. And I'd say, Jesus, maybe I need an enema or something. Something is wrong. So we wanted to create an art that was historically and culturally identifiable as black as Duke Ellington or Bessie Smith or the blues. Secondly, we wanted an art that would come out into the street, that would not be in these colleges and downtown in the village, that would come out among black people. And we did that, you know, like we bring Sunrise in the community, and people would say, well, Sunrise is too far out.
Right.
But people thought it was dance music. They'd be out there dancing, or what's that? And then we wanted an art that would help in the liberation of black people. That's what estranged us from a lot of the people who remained in the village, talking about the black folks, some of whom right around here, who then told us we were trying to tell them what to do. We said, we want art that helps liberate black people. And if you're not interested in that, I'm not interested in your art. But then later on, I read Du Bois had the same argument with Claude McKay.
Right. The author, Claude McKay.
Yeah, Claude McKay, when he came out with the book Home to Harlem,
Right.
Du Bois criticized it and said, well, you seem like you're more interested in talking to them Bohemians downtown. And it was a revelation to me, because McKay said, well, the trouble with you, doctor, is you so busy with propaganda, you don't know what art is. And he told him, I don't give a damn for no art that ain't propaganda. So I got that message, but that's what we were trying to do.
You know, it's interesting. Here we are in 2012, and a few things have come to mind. One, over the past year, with the passage of SB 1070 in Arizona, and the subsequent laws in Alabama, we've been seeing a lot of our Latino brothers and sisters very specifically using art to inform and to liberate. At the same time, we've seen the corporatization of many popular black forms of art. In particular, I'm looking at hip hop, or using black faces
Yeah.
to validate the art. And I'll give you an example of how I saw it was just looking at the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. And here we had black, couple kind of walking through this timeline, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, wow, they kind of skipped over all the imperialism and all the stuff that
Absolutely.
England has been responsible for, and you would never know that England, that England had its hands in damn near everybody, and just to kind of see that, get whitewashed literally, and then to see a black face smiling and walking you through the time thing. And then the last thing closer to home for you in New York and Newark is looking at a mural that was up in Inwood Park section of the Bronx that had the word murderers. It was a very elaborate mural talking about the NYPD, and we find out that that mural has been erased, but it was NYPD who erased it.
Yeah, I could
and
dig
that
it.
said to me, like, wow, okay, maybe we take art for granted, but everybody else kind of understands its power.
Well, that's just brainwash, like I had a poem that I wrote in the 60s. It begins, we are unfair, black magicians, black art we make in labs of the heart. And it ends with, they will not save them, and we own the night. The New York Police Department took that slogan, which I wrote in my poem, and used it on T-shirts. We own the night.
Wow, so they took your
That's right. They took the poem and put it on their T-shirts. So I said, well, can I sue these suckers? They doing this? No, you can't sue. It's a title. You can't sue them. But that just shows you that what you create, they cop, And one of the things that who else said that? Breck said that the reason that abstract art got so famous is that the bourgeoisie discovered that it's better to have abstract read than blood pouring out of the body of a slain worker. You understand? Because pictorial art takes sides.
Right.
You see what I mean? It's like Jean-Paul Sartre says, if you say something's wrong, I don't know what it is, that's art. But if you say something's wrong and I know who it did it and I know who it is, say that's social protest. See? So, always they're going to try to stamp out anything that makes your oppression specific,
But when we look at it historically, just as a people, and I'm looking back at your book, Blues People, where you talk about the Africanisms that were either bred out or beaten out of us, but still some of it remains. It seems like just from that work and others that our singing and our dancing and our expression, our vocal expressions in particular, are not art per se, but they're natural expressions that we do, I guess instinctively, and maybe it's a form of expression when you have no other. Out of our pain and
Well,
suffering,
that's-
of course we sing, dance, and do what we do.
Well, that's what art is. I mean, that's what Mao Zedong said. Art is the ideological expression of the human mind. It's the ideological expression of what's on your mind. So people who are enslaved, they're going to talk about being enslaved most of the time, whether they playing it on like that or singing about it or writing a poem about it. It's going to be about their conditions. And my English professor at Howard, great poet named Sterling Brown, he first hit me to that. He brought me and a guy named A.B. Spellman to his house because we thought we were so hip. We had heard Charlie Parker. And he says to us, he on the wall, he's got all these 78 records by genre, by artists, chronologically laid out. And he says, that's your history. Now, I didn't understand exactly what he meant then, as an undergraduate. 12, 15 years later, I understood it. I understood exactly. Oh, I see. He's saying, if you study your music, they telling you their history.
Yeah.
That's what the blues does over and over. Even rap. And I say rap. My sons told me, hip hop is that rap is part of hip hop.
Right.
But I say rap because I know what rap means. It goes back beating on that wood.
It's what we call hip hop.
Absolutely. It says, see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the morning, bring your knife, don't be late. I mean, that's how far rap is, rap on the wood.
Right.
But people who are going through whatever condition, they're going to talk about that all the time. And even in slavery, we always talked about it. I mean, they're singing, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. They singing that as slaves, or I may be wrong, but I won't be wrong always.
But have we collectively speaking, or is it just maybe a chosen few that are made to represent the masses? Have we bought into, say, the white power structure or just mainstream society? And I ask this, like, when I look at Kanye and Jay-Z's album, as talented as they are, and knowing the suffering that we are collectively going through, we're talking about just in the United States alone, 1 out of 7 people living below poverty, 1 out of 4 kids, and the numbers are even higher than us. Every 36 hours, somebody black is being killed by the police.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening to the album, and I'm going, wow, y'all are celebrating opulence in the middle of a recession, not just an economic one, but a very, a social and political one. And it seems to suggest to the rest of the world that somehow black folks in America have got it going on now, and we don't have to worry about struggle, or they've been made to represent and the rest of our voices have been hidden.
Well, that's why they do it. That's exactly why they do it. I mean, rap doesn't start like that. I mean, when you listen to African Bambaataa or Curtis Blow, or Grandmaster Flash, or even early Public Enemy, it's about political struggle. When the corporations get hold of it, they make it about drugs and money and so forth, because that's what they can take. They can stand that. They make it abstract. And then you raise up, a few people, and they're talking about their conditions, which are different
than yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're a millionaire, they're
exactly
different than mine.
See, they be talking about they're going to kill this and they're going to do this, and then they jump on a plane and go somewhere else. See, it's different. And the life, even my own writing and stuff, once you begin to get clear on what you're saying, when you're young, you can say anything because you got a whole lot of stuff in your mind. You're not clear on what you're saying. But once you get clear about what you're saying, and you're going to say that relentlessly, see, then they're going to say, no, well, you're a racist, you're anti-Semite, you something that you can't get covered no more, But that's just self-defense.
Well, I want to do this for a second. I want to take a break, and I want to come back and continue this conversation with Amiri Baraka. I'm going to play a famous poem of yours, and to me, it exemplifies speaking truth to power. And when I ask why somebody in your generation felt very comfortable in doing that, and many others hid away. We'll be right back.
Somebody blew up America. All thinking people oppose terrorism, both domestic and international. But one should not be used to cover the other. Somebody blew up America. They say it's some terrorist, some barbaric Arab in Afghanistan. It wasn't our American terrorists, it wasn't the Klan, or the skinheads, or the them that blows up nigger churches or reincarnates us on death row. It wasn't Trent Lott, or David Duke, or Giuliani, or Schindler. Helms retiring. It wasn't the gonorrhea in costume, the white sheet diseases that have murdered black people, terrorized reason and sanity, most of humanity, as they pleases. They say, who say? Who do the saying? Who is them paying? Who tell the lies? Who in disguise? Who had the slaves? Who got the bucks out the bucks? Who got fat from plantations? Who genocided Indians, tried to waste the black nation? Who live on Wall Street, the first plantation? Who cut your nuts off? Who raped your mom? Who lent your pa? Who got the tar? Who got the feathers? Who had the match? Who set the fires? Who killed and hired? Who say they God? Still be the devil. Who the biggest only? Who the most goodest? Who do Jesus resemble? Who created everything? Who the smartest? Who the greatest? Who the richest? Who say you ugly and they the good lookingest? Who define art? Who defined science? Who made the bombs? Who made the guns? Who bought the slaves? Who sold them? Who call you them names? Who say Dama wasn't insane? Who? Who stole Puerto Rico? Who stole the Indies, the Philippines, Manhattan, Australia, and the Hebrides? Who forced opium on the Chinese? Who owned them buildings? Who got the money? Who think you funny? Who lock you up? Who owned the papers? Who owned the slave ship? Who run the army? Who was the fake president? Who the ruler? Who the banker? Who the devil on the real side? Who got rich from Armenian genocide? Who the biggest terrorist? Who changed the Bible? Who kill the most people? Who do the most evil? Who don't worry about survival? Who have the colonies? Who stole the most land? Who rule the world? Who say they good but only do evil? Who the biggest executioner? Who? Who own the oil? Who want more oil? Who told you what you think that later you find out is a lie? Who found Bin Laden? Maybe they Satan. Who paid the CIA? Who knew the bomb was gonna blow? Who know where the terrorists learned to fly in Florida and San Diego? Who knew why 5 Israelis was filming the explosion and cracking their sides at the notion? Who need fossil fuel when the sun ain't going nowhere? Who make the credit cards? Who get the biggest tax cut? Who walked out of the conference against racism? Who killed Malcolm, Kennedy, and his brother? Who killed Dr. King? Who would want such a thing? Are they linked to the murder of Lincoln? Who invaded Grenada? Who made money from apartheid? Who keep the Irish a colony? Who overthrew Chile and Nicaragua later? Who killed David Sebeco, Chris Hani, the same ones who killed Biko, Cabral, Neruda, Allende, Che Guevara, Sandino? Who killed Kabila, the ones who wasted Lumumba, Manlane, Betty Shabazz, Princess Di, Ralph Featherstone, Little Bobby? Locked up Mandela, Deruba, Geronimo, Asada, Mumia, Garvey, Yashil Hammond, Althea Sutton. Who killed Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Mikey Smith, Walter Rodney? Was it the ones who tried to poison Fidel? Who tried to keep the Vietnamese oppressed? Who put a price on Lenin's head? Who put the Jews in ovens? And who helped them do it? Who said America first and okayed the yellow stars? Who killed Rosa Luxemburg, Liebknecht? Who murdered the Rosenbergs? And all the good people iced, tortured, assassinated, banished? Who got rich from Algeria, Libya, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Saudi, Kuwait, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Jordan, Palestine? Who cut off people's hands in the Congo? Who invented AIDS? Who put the germs in the Indians' blankets? Who thought up the Trail of Tears? Who blew up the Maine and started the Spanish-American War? Who got Sharon back in power? Who backed Batista, Hitler, Bilbo, Chiang Kai-shek? Who decided affirmative action had to go? Reconstruction, the New Deal, the New Frontier, the Great Society? Who do Tom S. Clarence work for? Who do come out the colon's mouth? Who know what kind of skeezer is a Condoleezza? Who pay Connolly to be a wooden Negro? Who give genius awards to Homo locus subsidiary? Who overthrew Nkrumah, Bishop? Who poisoned Robeson? Who tried to put Du Bois in jail? Who framed Rap Jamil Al-Amin? Who framed the Rosenbergs, Garvey, the Scottsboro Boys, the Hollywood 10? Who set the Reichstag fire? Who knew the World Trade Center was going to get bombed? Who told 4,000 Israeli workers at the Twin Towers to stay home that day? Why did Sharon stay away? Who? Who? Explosion of owl, the newspapers say. Devil's face could be seen. Explosion of owl, the newspapers say the devil's face could be seen. Who? Who make money from war? Who make dough from fear and lies? Who want the world like it is? Who want the world to be ruled by imperialism and national oppression and terror, violence and hunger and poverty? Who is the ruler of hell? Who is the ruler of hell? Who is most powerful? Who you know ever seen God? But everybody's seen the devil. Like an owl exploding in your life, in your brain, in yourself. Like an owl who know the devil all night, all day if you listen. Like an owl exploding in fire. Like an owl exploding in your life, in your brain, in yourself. Like an owl who know the devil all night, all day, if you listen. Like an owl exploding in fire. We hear the questions rise in terrible flame like the whistle of a crazy dog. Like the acid vomit of the fire of hell. Who and who and who? Woo! Woo!
We're back here and we're playing an excerpt from a poem that definitely put you in some hot water. Somebody Blew Up America.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when this first came out, we played it on the airwaves, and whew, you know, it was, for a lot of our listeners, it was a welcome breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It was like somebody is saying something that needs to be said. But one of the critiques was, at a date and time when so much was at stake in the direction of not the country, but in many parts of the world, was now going to unfold, you would have thought that more people would have been speaking a certain truth to power. Why were you, able to do that, but so many other people who were within both of our generations just kind of...
Well, it's safer. See, people, if they're not committed to doing certain things because they want to do that, they're going to take the easy road out. The one thing about that poem, because I live right across from the World Trade Center.
So you were able to see.
I could see that stuff, so we were like petrified by that. You could see the fire, you could smell the stuff, I was supposed to go to New York that morning to be with Felipe Luciano to campaign for him. He's running for...
Felipe Luciano, original last poet.
Yeah, that's right. Felipe called me about 8 o'clock, said, turn on the TV. I turned on the TV, the building's burning.
Right.
So I thought it was like back in the day when I was a kid, a plane hit the Empire State Building and left a big hole in the Empire State Building. We used to watch, my parents would take us to New York, and I'd see that every week.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
A big hole in the top of the Empire State Building, and it was there for months until they repaired it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. No, that was, at the time, a scary thing. And so that's what I thought had happened until I saw the next plane come around and go, pow! And that scared me. I mean, really, you know, hey, my kids, you know, me and my wife got 5 kids. We live right there. But then when Bush started talking his stuff about, you know, terrorism, and they, you know, they hate us because of our democracy. You know, like I was incensed by that, because I said, that's how we got here, terrorism.
Right.
You know, I mean, you came over to Africa and got me, my people.
Right.
You know, nobody asked to come here. I don't even like the weather. You know what I mean? So it's like, then I start thinking about all the people who have been victimized. You know, whether you're talking about Native Americans or Asians or, you know, people all over the world, Africans and so forth. And so I finished that poem about a month after 9/11, and I sent it all over the world on the net. And, you know, mostly positive. I got some negative comments, but then...
This time you were the New Jersey Poet Laureate, right?
No, that happened after. After I sent the poem out,
Okay.
then the governor wanted to tell me, you know, you're the poet laureate of New Jersey, blah, 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 blah. But when I read it at the Dodge Poetry Festival that year, and I read it for a couple of thousand people. And, you know, we sat there and signed books. And the last people who came up, well-dressed people, said that was a hateful poem. A hateful poem, what are you talking about? But anyway, the next day the governor's office called me and said, you have to apologize and resign. And I could see that they had rigged this up, you know. I said, no, you're not crazy. I'm not thinking about that. Interestingly, the governor had to apologize and resign a year later
Right.
for having a homosexual affair with this Israeli guy in his office.
Right.
You see, and he's now in the seminary. I don't know what that means, whether that's positive or negative, but I got harassed something terrible during that time. People would call me up, you know, there are 12 people looking for you, you know, on the New York streets and this and that and all this stuff, you know.
Over a poem.
Over a poem. They put it on the front page of the Star Ledger. And I said, gee, that's the best circulation I had.
What does this say about, what does this say when somebody like you, at this time in 2011, yes, you're known, but you're not a gold artist, you're not played on the radio every day.
No.
We weren't turning on the TV and going, oh, this is the Amiri Baraka show.
No.
And so, you know, it's not like you were part of the quote unquote mainstream that was easily accessible. Yet this poem led to all types of harassment and moves from the highest offices of the land.
That's because of the time. You see, that the 911 thing opened a thing in America's soul. You know, people were responsive. And so to have the poet laureate of New Jersey, not just a poet, come out and say these things about that, you know, it affected them in a negative way. You know, I went down to the state legislature. I said, well, look, what you want to do, put the poem on the wall and have all the legislators come down there. We discuss it. And you tell me the stuff you think is anti-Semitic and that we can discuss it. The guy told me, the acting governor, this is after the other governor had got popped. He says, we don't have to do that. I said, what do you mean you don't have to do that? He said, we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. You know, this was acting Governor Cody told me that after McGreevey got thrown out, you know. So I could see, and even we went to 3 courts. We finally went to the Supreme Court. They refused to hear it. I was in Venezuela.
New Jersey or of the United
On the
States?
Supreme Court of the United States.
Oh, wow.
They refused to hear it. I was in Venezuela on the stage when, you know, the phone, there's somebody gave me the phone, says, New York Times is on, you know. I said, the Supreme Court, United States refused to hear, you know, your case. So, you know then that they've got this armored front against you, you see, and the best thing you can do is do what you do. You know, it's nothing, you're not gonna make me do nothing, you know what I mean? So then that's the standoff. Yet they have more power. They can say, and they will say that after I'm dead, there will still be people running around and say he was an anti-Semite. You know, that's what they can do. They can do that over and over and over. But the best thing for you to do is do what you do. Like I always tell people, nobody knows who the mayor was during Shakespeare's time.
But they know.
You know what I mean? I'm not even thinking about that. You tell me, who was the mayor when Shakespeare wrote Hamlet? Who was the mayor of London? Right. You know, nobody know that, you know. And it's because that stuff they do is temporal. It don't last.
What would you say, you know, when I saw what you went through with that poem, you know, Somebody Blew Up America, I connected it immediately to what went on maybe 10 years earlier with an Ice-T. I connected it with what went on with NWA and others who had done the anti-police songs.
Yeah.
And, you know, the type of fervor that it unleashed where, you know, they went up to Time Warner and was trying to remove people from the labels. And then there was a sea change in music where it was just like, we're not going to even go the political route because this stuff is making folks uncomfortable. You would have just thought that, you know, and ideally that there would have been those type of artists right alongside you. You know, as soon as you got, you know, heat for that poem, there should have been 10 other poems or songs coming up right alongside you. And it was just absent. It was like, man, you just do it yourself and I'm just going to sit back.
But see, like you saying, the thing, then the police, anti-police thing, Ice-T, who was in the middle of that, then they made him a policeman. They gave him a gig as a policeman on television. You understand what I mean?
Right.
That's what they do. Just like Al Freeman, who played Dutchman, 1963, right. 1964. By 65, he was a policeman on television. Oh, wow. They can co-opt you. They can pay money to cool you out. They can change your image overnight, you see. But if you refuse to do that, you know, then they're going to just step over you. They have the power to do that. So, I mean, even when the boss, what's his name, Springsteen, when he first sang that thing about killing the yellow man for the white man, they took him off.
So my question to you is, what should we be doing at this point in time? How do we combat the type of silencing that goes on, the co-opting that takes place? What are 2 or 3 things that you would say that those who want to see our ultimate liberation be doing?
Well, they should, first of all, not wait to be discovered by their enemies. You know, that's the problem too often. Even myself, sometimes you settle for other people doing your things, you know, or discovering you or celebrating you rather than doing it yourself, which is hard. You know, it's hard to do that. But that's what you have to do. When you look at these movies and stuff you see, you don't see yourself in the movies. When you see yourself, you're in, you know, the hood selling dope, you know, or something like that. But in terms of, I mean, all this garbage they make, it is infuriating. Where's our history? Even somebody like Spike Lee, where's the history of the Afro-American people? You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, that stuff they make, where's the history? Where's Fred Douglass' history? Where's Nat Turner's history?
Or even Robert Williams. I know they have the documentary.
Where it's, because that is what validates your own self-consciousness. You see, because without true self-consciousness, again, Du Bois, true self-consciousness. Without true self-consciousness, who are you? Do you know? When you look at the TV and see other folks, and when you see yourself in some demeaning kind of role and identify, you can say, well, that ain't me.
Right.
Well, who are you? Where are you? You know, then you have to do it yourself. That's when even when I first came to New York as a poet downtown in the Village, I said, well, no, I'm not going to wait to be discovered by these people. This is after I'd been stationed in Puerto Rico and sent poems out every week, man. I should have kept those. They would come back almost before I sent them out. You know, I was getting rejected by all of those journals. I said, I'm not going to do that. I am going to publish a magazine myself so I can make sure I get published and make sure that the people whose work that I like.
So self-determination.
Yeah, and you have to be at least arrogant enough to figure what I like is not stupid.
Right.
What I want is not fictitious.
Right.
You understand? And do it yourself. If you're not willing to do that, they'll trample you. And that's what I have to say. That's the question. And for Afro-American artists, you have some of the greatest artists in the world. You understand? I mean, the stuff they want to mash on you is not even up to what your own people did. You know, right. When you talk, if you say who are the greatest writers in the 19th century in the United States, one of them is Fred Douglass.
Yeah.
See, now you can say Herman Melville. You know, that's true. You can say Mark Twain. Right. That's true. You can say Emily Dickinson. That's true. But one of them is Frederick Douglass.
And nobody wants to talk about.
You see, right? And the only one that talks about you. Find out the exact amount of injustice any people will accept, and you find out the exact amount they will receive. Now that's for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's specific to you.
Right. And we forget. You know, I think oftentimes we forget or we overlook the genius of our people and its creativity. People who are able to do something out of nothing.
As a slave, when you think, here's a man who's a slave who can get up and run that, you know, that 4th of July speech?
Yeah.
What is your 4th of July to a slave?
Yeah.
Did you invite me here to mock me? I mean, you know, see, if you could stand up there before thousands of people as a runaway slave.
And remembering that they tried to break him
a
kid.
Yeah, I know.
Tried to break him, and he never allowed that to happen. You know, one of the things as we close out, I've seen and I've heard you have many vigorous debates around the support of Barack Obama over the years, and you know, since he got elected. And I don't know where you sit now, but one of the things that's interesting is that since we're talking about art and expression, black expression played a very key role in his election in 2008. From your standpoint, did he do right by those people? And that, you know, which this art was birthed from. And what do we do in 2012? Do we go to the plate with that same sort of treasure chest of expressions and use it the way we did, in a way to put him back in the White House, or do we use it in another way?
Well, see, here's the thing. First of all, if you thought that he could change America in 3.5 years, you don't know where you at. Right. You see, I would say that to the first people. Secondly, a lot of things Obama did or didn't do, you know, that thing, for instance, in Libya, you know, what he doing in Syria, I don't approve of that. I don't support that. But I look at those Republicans, you see, if nothing else, the Republicans should force you to support him. I don't care. You know, that kind of weak liberalism that Obama most times is guilty of is still better than. And the stuff that he did around the gays, positive. You know, the stuff he did around the health care is positive. The stuff he did about the Latinos is positive. Them other dudes wouldn't do that, you see. So I know it's a pitiful it's a pittance that we're being given. Right. But we have to see that pittance as better than what we would get. It's a bad place to be.
Now I'm looking at it from the artist standpoint.
Yeah.
Should our art, black art, be directing him, and should it be coming at him so that he can't ignore whatever agenda we feel needs to really be pushed?
Oh yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm just looking at 08, and I'm remembering people doing concerts. I'm remembering that picture, that iconic picture, the whole picture that Fairley did, you know?
Yeah.
All these things put him into the White House, but I'm not seeing how the artist community is pushing him in 2012.
You got to push him, you got to stand up, because see, Obama wouldn't be in there if it wasn't for Fred Douglass, Nat Turner, you know what I'm saying? Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers. See, that's the march of history. That's what got him there. He's not there because he's smart. He's a smart dude, and that helped. You can see how he's whipping Romney's ass before the election even start. But it's because we put him there collectively, and we have to keep him there, even though we got to say, man, what you did, that's corny.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like you would talk to a brother on the street, you got to talk to him like that. Hey, that's stupid what you did. Why you do that? But I'm not going to let Romney come in here.
Right.
You see, that's like a crazy person at your door, and you got a brother who's slightly backward in the house.
Right.
You got to talk to him. See, I'm not going to let this nut in here.
Right.
You understand? But that's, and see, a lot of people who think of themselves as intellectuals, I'm thinking of, you know, like my man, what's his name? Laffey, what's his name, Tavis Smiley and them like that. I just had an argument with these people.
Michael Dyson?
Huh?
Mike Dyson, Cornel West?
Yeah, I have arguments with them all the time, because just because you know certain things, that's what you need to say, what you really know. Don't tell me something about Obama done failed black people. You think Mitt Romney, you going to support him? It's a question of being real. You understand? Now, you got to support the brother, not just because of his skin color, because whatever he has done, as corny as some things he's done, is still better than what they're going to offer us. It's better for the gays, better for the Latinos, better for the health care. You understand? So
many Latinos, at least here in the Bay, have argued because he deported so many.
Yeah,
and so
I
many
understand.
families have gotten broken up, so they don't see it as a win.
Well, no, they got to say that then. See, to me, you got to say that. See, that was corny. That shit you was doing, that was corny. But thank you for that small amount of grace. But, I mean, you have to look at things as they are, man, and say, this is negative, this is positive, this is negative, this is positive. And that's the only thing I can offer.
Well, kind of related to that, since he's been elected, the racism that has emerged in this country has been tenfold. It's very
Absolutely.
visible now.
Absolutely.
I was just talking with a brother, Latino guy, who went right down the street here in Oakland, right, not too far from here, to a bar. White lady came up there and started mocking him in the middle of East Oakland. And I said, wow, people getting really bold now.
No, they out.
They got that comfortable.
They got frustrated.
Right. So with that being said, what should our art be doing now to deal with this?
You got to speak to him. You got to speak to him. You got to speak to him. You see, and you got to speak to him. It's that. It's just, again, Sisyphus, up, down. You push it up, they push it down. See, now these people are so frantic
and
frustrated.
We're talking about the Greek.
Absolutely.
Right,
you push the rock up,
right.
and they push it back down. That's what Du Bois pictured the Black Liberation Movement as, Sisyphus syndrome. You push the rock up, they see you go on, they push it down. So that's right after the Emancipation Proclamation, what happens? They sent the black codes, the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
You understand? So right after Obama, what happens? The Tea Party. You understand? And the people take off their robes, their white robes, and put them in their Republican Party handbags and walk into the House of Representatives. But they don't represent us. But I'm saying the struggle continues. And the higher you can push it, the more intensely they're going to try to drive it down. And that's what it is now. I mean, a lot of these people get sick at the stomach seeing this colored dude in the White House. I mean, that's, whatever he's doing is wrong. You understand? But it's a long fight, man. When I was a kid, I thought it would be over. I thought that we could, like in Newark, I thought when we ran them white people out of there, out of City Hall, everything would be everything, But then you face classes.
But we buy into it.
Yeah, we buy some of it. Absolutely. What the negative thing that the Obama phenomenon has done is convince a whole lot of Negroes, and particularly some young ones, that they have made it. And they are there because they're smart. And the rest of these Negroes not smart. That's why they're not making it. But that's a lie. You understand? I mean, ain't none of y'all smart as Malcolm, or Dr. King. I mean, and they killed them. I don't know what you think. Right. It's the same thing. As long as you got the 0.6% in control of everything, And what they want to do now is they want a corporate dictatorship,
Right. And that's key there. We're going to end there. Corporate tyranny is the big fight in front of us.
That's right.
And many of our own have bought into that.
Absolutely.
Have been allowed to sit and be a face for corporate tyranny, and we're going to have to be smart enough as we move forward to see through that.
Absolutely.
My last question, and this is just something as we end on, because you're well-read and you're somebody who is an elder in our community, what are 3 books that you would tell people that are watching right now that they should really read to really start to, open up their minds and move in another direction?
Okay, one would be Fred Douglass, his slave narrative, written by himself. See, that's the difference. Most of the narratives were dictated to abolitionists by the slaves, but the reason that Douglass thing, written by himself, about what slavery was like. That's what you first should see, what slavery was really like. Second book would be Du Bois, Souls of Black Folks.
Okay.
Begins, how does it feel to be a problem? You know, now you think about that. How does it feel to be a problem? Problems. And the third one would be Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking with Amiri Baraka. How do we get a hold of you? Their website or anything?
Yeah, the website, AmiriBarakaBooks.com.
Okay.
And that's the best way.
Well, there you have it. It's always a pleasure to talk to an iconic figure, a legend, history, our history, and bring it to the forefront. It's great to talk to you.
Okay.
From the Black Arts Movement and beyond, Amiri Baraka, major props to him. We're out for now, people. Peace.